Sometimes in life we don't get our way, and that's frustrating because we put together all sorts of plans and we have our objectives, our goals, and then sometimes nothing really comes of any of it. And it feels like fate laughs at us sometimes when we try to make things work. We put a lot of effort into life, and then it feels like it was all for nothing. And today we're talking about how setbacks often have benefits too. And there's a silver lining in every cloud. For example, I like to spend time investing in the stock market. It's a hobby. It's hopefully a way to build wealth over time. But as a swing trader, my goal is to buy something and then ride it upwards and sell it at a profit. Sometimes that works out really well, and it winds up being a quick flip and some profit, and that's great. That's fun. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes it winds up being a temporary loss or even a long-term loss on paper where I think it'll probably come back. I think I'll probably wind up making my money one day, but it's not going to be today. So that's a downside. That's not what I want to be the case. It's just how it is sometimes. So what is the upside? Well, the upside is if it's money that I'm investing, I'm not intending to use that money in the near future anyway. It's not money that I'm going to be using to buy my groceries or cover my needs or wants. So if I'm not really going to be trading, then that frees up hours in my day that I can spend not doom scrolling the stock tickers and the business news segments and thinking about all of those things. I can just sort of let it go and stop thinking about it, stop focusing on it. And it's one thing I don't need to necessarily put my time into. Or for example, let's say that I want a new relationship and then that doesn't avail itself in the way or in the time I want. Well, that also frees up a lot of space and time in my life, which I can then pour into hobbies or interests or working on myself. Or maybe I want a new job and that doesn't work out the way I want it to. Well, then, maybe I keep the old job for a while and then I get the benefit of a familiar job I know how to do that's not too difficult. And then I can use that time to my advantage. There's always something where you can look at life and you can say, well, maybe I didn't get exactly what I wanted. But that doesn't mean that I can't have a good life. It doesn't mean that there's not a benefit there. And when you start to look at life through the lens of benefits instead of drawbacks, then you are more likely to have a life that feels like it's full and satisfying, no matter what may happen. Even if we perish and our lives come to an end, still, when life ends, it's always from the ashes of loss and the end of life that new life is born and fresh things rise up. Spring comes from winter. So don't feel too frustrated by anything in life, even if it feels like you're not getting exactly what you want when you want it. There is a parable of the Taoist farmer, which I like, and it goes like this. There was a farmer and he had a horse, and his neighbors said, well, you are so lucky you have a horse that can pull carts and do work for you and stuff. And he said, well, maybe. But then the horse ran away, and all of his neighbors said, well, that's unlucky. Bad luck, they said. And he said, well, maybe. But then the horse returned. It returned with 6 wild horses that it had befriended out in the wild. And now he had 7 horses. And his neighbors again said, well, that's amazing luck. And he said, maybe. Well, then his son is out there trying to tame the horses. And one of them throws him off. And his son breaks his leg because he was thrown off of one of those wild horses. And the neighbors say, well, that's bad luck. Farmer says, maybe. And then the next day, the soldiers come to recruit young men for war. And they pass over his son, and they don't take his son because his son has the broken leg. And so, again, the neighbors say, well, you're so lucky. Farmer says, well, maybe. See, the thing is, there's things that are good in our lives, and there's things that are bad in our lives by our own estimation. But are they really good or are they bad? Like, we don't really know, right? Because there's things that can seem like they're bad, but they lead to something good. And then there's things that can seem like they're good, but they wind up backfiring and they lead to something we didn't anticipate. Back in 1971, Richard Nixon was in the White House, and the new White House came along with a new archival recording system that was going to help preserve his legacy in history. Unfortunately, however, it wound up helping spell out the end of his presidency prematurely when the new recording system didn't record greatness as much as it recorded scandal. Maybe on day one, it seemed like a great idea to have the new recording system in the White House, but I'm sure when President Nixon was resigning a little while later, he wasn't too happy about the new technology that had done in his opportunity to have a memorable legacy in a good way. The point is, sometimes we want more attention. We want things to change, but it's important to be careful what you wish for. I remember once when I was younger, I was interested in moving up in the company and I wanted more attention. I felt like I was just not getting noticed enough. And so I started moving around. I started being dissatisfied. I started shifting around, trying to see if I could get somebody to notice my talents. And that wound up actually setting me back. I didn't do very well because I started to have that reputation of being dissatisfied and always stirring the pot and always wanting to jump from one thing to the next, and that attitude that things aren't moving fast enough and I want more attention and all of those sorts of things. And those are not really any of the signals that you want to send out. So I've often found throughout the years that you tend to have more success when you aren't really chasing something than you do when you're very desperate for it. So kind of a weird dichotomy that you are more likely to be a good leader if you're not busy trying to be a good leader. But we don't know what's going to work out well for us and what's going to wind up being a dead end. It's all kind of a wild card. There is a saying, for want of a nail, a horseshoe was lost. And for want of a horseshoe, a horse was lost. For want of a horse, a rider was lost. For want of a rider, a battle was lost. And for want of a battle, a war was lost. And so it came to pass that a kingdom was lost for want of a nail. Small things have a way of leading to significant results. It was meteorologist Edward Lorenz in 1972 at a conference, meteorologist. He said that the flap of a butterfly's wings can be instrumental in generating or preventing a tornado. The point he was making is that small things have a way of dramatically influencing the world. So maybe I work for my whole life to try to achieve something important to me. But then what actually makes or breaks my entire destiny is defined by a chance encounter with someone I didn't even anticipate meeting. There's lots of examples in life where people make vast plans which lead to nothing. And also many examples of people who wind up reaching greatness without really putting in a whole lot of effort at all. That's the strange thing about life. You just don't really know. And the comforting part about all of this is that if you understand that things can work out for good when you least expect it, then you are more likely to have the right attitude. And you're more likely to understand that you don't have to really prove anything to the universe in order to have a meaningful life, because it's really a lot up to chance. It's up to fate. It's up to things that are rather beyond our control. So if the greatest things in your life could happen without you really doing much at all, and if all of your best laid plans could still lead to ruin if chance isn't on your side, then it makes a lot more sense just to not stress it so much and to say, if I'm successful or if I'm not successful, either way, I will give thanks for the life that I have as it is, without any changes or amendments. Life is not meant to be one exactly. It's meant to be experienced. So make a point to enjoy the life you have. And no matter what you find yourself experiencing, always remember that there is an angle which will allow you to see your life through a lens of abundance and blessing. And when you start to have an attitude that your life is filled with lovely things, you're more likely to attract them to you. It isn't a coincidence that when we start to be frustrated in life, then more things tend to go wrong, because instead of seeing our lives through a lens of abundance, we see it through a lens of loss. And no one's ever had a wonderful life by viewing it as a negative experience. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks for watching.